Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Multiverse Locker Room, where there is no meta, just mayhem. This week, we're going to do something that might get us reported by half of the Marvel Rivals community. We're going to defend DPS players. Kinda. Now, before every support main throws their headphones across the room and every tank player starts typing an angry comment, just hear us out. We spent months blaming DPS players for everything, but after a deep look at the current state of Marvel Rivals, we're starting to wonder if we've been blaming the symptoms instead of the disease. We'll talk about what we've noticed after a full week of Cyclops running wild, breaking down the latest balance changes, and of course, deep dive into another locker room meltdown because apparently common sense remains a limited time event. And then in our main event, we're going to tackle the biggest question we've asked so far. What if the DPS players aren't the reason that Marvel Rivals feels broken? What if the developers created the environment that's causing all these problems in the first place? I know it's a hot take and it's probably going to make some people mad, and honestly, that's exactly why we're going to talk about it. So grab your patch notes, blame your teammates while you still can, and let's get into it. This is the Multiverse Locker Room. I'm Goat Dog, as always, joined by my co-host, the man who just crashed out on his chef for making the steak taste too good, Mr. Kosa. How's it going, my brother?
Lovely intro, brother. Appreciate it. You're doing good, man. Just having a little Marble Rival, relapse and recovery today.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, we can jump right into it. I know, it's been about a week's worth of a little bit over a week worth of time with Cyclops. He just got the recent overnight ult buff. So, as a person who's been playing with him, for a lot more time than I have, I'll let you give us a little bit of information about what you've noticed. Good, bad, ugly, all that good stuff after about a week or more with Mr. Cyclops.
For certain, bro. So I say, after a week's time, testing them out, doing a little theory crafting, playing with different comps or whatnot. I would say he's the best in slot DPS right now. He is officially, ascended to the best hit scan character in the game, like surpassing, the feats of even a Phoenix or a Hela. He's that good, obviously in the right hands because we know there's some trash Cyclops out there as well. But yeah. So like I said, I've been playing with him more and more, and I figured him out. I think pretty decently. Um, and I think honestly, bro, he's here to stay, man. The front runner for, like I said, top DPS in the game.
I mean, that's a strong statement, man. But I mean, what do you think about the recent update they did to his the buff that it got? How do you feel about that?
First off, I think you said it. You saw it on a Reddit or something like that, a forum about they made one of the most uncounterable ults in the game, uncounterable
More
altogether
uncountable,
now.
yeah.
I think they said it best, brother, honestly, because I don't think they needed to do anything as far as his ult was concerned. I feel like it was good as is. It was already overpowered. I don't think it was the most overpowered ability in his kit. But now, you know, good luck of dodging the beam of doom and despair, bro.
Yeah, you just found out yesterday that it actually has 3 hits to it, not just the two that everybody thinks that it has.
Yeah, so yeah, like you said, spoiler alert, the Cyclops ult does 3 different instances of damages from the beam itself actually making contact, the trail that it leaves on the ground, and basically the aftershock or aftermath with the explosion damage. So hey man, that's the holy trinity of damage, bro. If you get caught by that, I think it's a good night, Irene.
Well, I mean, I've definitely got caught, a couple of times by it, and it's definitely not fun, especially when I'm on like White Fox or something, and I don't have my teleport. It's pretty much game over. So, yeah, I don't think it needed that extra buff, but I mean, we got it. So take it or leave it. It's here to stay. Um, so I know you had a lot of stuff that was on your chest, and you couldn't wait to record. So I'll let you hop right into your meltdown, man. Just tell me what's on your mind.
Man, like I told you when we first got in the party chat earlier, bro. Like, man, I had to get some things off my chest today, gang. I went to bed with a heavy heart last night, man, after a few situations that I ran into. But most importantly, I think for me, my locker room meltdown this week will consist of the streaming community, man. I'm gonna approach it from a different angle, and I know we talked about it throughout the week, but just recently, I winded up changing my name or just adding, the TTV to my handle just to promote and drive traffic to my Twitch channel. And man, I'm starting to think that was a big mistake, brother, because it's been a lot of unwarranted attention, but
Oh yeah.
I guess that's what you want, at the end of the day. Like, I did want to promote the channel and just get more eyeballs and raise awareness to what we're trying to do as far as building our communities. And man, it's backfired pretty fast. And what I mean by that is yeah, that's all people are paying attention to now. Like, it's not it's not so much like your gameplay or anything like that,
Right.
or what you're bringing to the table. It's just now everybody's focusing just solely on, oh, you got TTV in your name. So I've had teammates, just start initiating trash talk in the comments on the game chat, just acknowledging that they think I'm streaming. I'm not actually streaming. Sometimes I am streaming, but a lot of times I'm not streaming, and they just assume that I am, and then they just get performative. You know what I'm saying? Like, they turn on the switch, bro, and they just go into just being offended mode. And they're like, oh, like, you good luck with you and your 0 followers on your stream and all this type of crap. And I'm like, brother, you paying attention to the wrong thing. You know what I mean? Like, we just sitting here playing. I'm just trying to play the game. Yes, I have it in my username, but I'm not one of those people at the same time that's typing in chat throughout the game telling you, hey,
Yeah.
follow my YouTube channel, or follow my Twitch. I'm not doing all of that. So uh I've noticed that it's triggered people, bro, for good and for bad. Like, granted, I have gained some more followers from promoting, just change my name and promoting the Twitch. But also, it's like, bro, I've gained so many more enemies, just like jealousy and envy, just because, like they see someone doing something different than what they're doing. It's like, it actually makes sense, to change your name. I was actually given that advice by a random, player that I encountered on the game. He told me, because we started talking about streaming, and he mentioned, like, hey, you know what? You should change your username and just put the TTV in it. And we see it all the time.
Oh yeah.
You've seen plenty of people, right, with the same things in their username. I thought nothing of it before, but I was like, well, no, that actually makes sense to me because I do have a Twitch channel. So, and we have YouTube and all that. So I'm like, oh yeah, I could change it. But he did warn me though. He was like, you will get hate watchers, people that will snipe your stream and stuff like that, just to throw, salt on your name. And I wasn't prepared, obviously, for the pushback because it came from a place of positivity. But I've received a lot of feedback, bro, so far. From just that, for like I said, from teammates not wanting to heal me. Prime example, I played a game yesterday where I had teammates mention, my Twitch handle in the chat, and just, decided to go out of their way to heal me and heal the rest of the team and just let me suffer and die. And then on the flip end, I've had the enemy teams call me out and chat for streaming. They think that I'm streaming, and they proceed to target me the whole game and try to embarrass me and make me have the worst game of my life. And then they make sure to let me know that was the reason why. So I don't know, man, but I'm telling you, that really burnt my biscuits, bro. That really chapped my ass this week.
Listen, man, I've had my thoughts about the TTVs of the world, in other games that I've played. Now, that has kind of motivated me to target that person a little bit more. I'm not gonna lie, but as far as a teammate, I've never, wanted to like help my teammate less because they had TTV in their name. At the end of the day, the most important thing for me is getting a dub. So even if I do
Hmm.
have somebody I think is streaming or whatever, I may have my thoughts about that person or whatever, but it doesn't change the fact that I'm trying to win, so I'm going to do what it takes to win. So I hate that. In soccer they call it man marking. When you have somebody that's just dedicated to making sure that you don't beat them, regardless of what's going on in the game, they're going to attack you. So I hate that you've been getting man marked, man. It's got to suck, but I think it is. Making you better. I think that you are good enough to
Facts.
overcome it, and you'll probably find different ways that you didn't necessarily know about, to be able to get around that and overcome that. But overall, I think that you will be better off for it. I think that you will figure out, how to help yourself, have better games and not let it affect you so much. Because you got to think there's other people that have the TTB in their name, and chances are they're probably going through the same things. So it sucks that this community, as far as your teammates go, it sucks that the community has people that are willing to, take a L because their teammate has TTB in their name. But I mean, it's just like, just like when I play Scarlet and people so worried about, the character I'm playing, they're too much worried about stuff that doesn't concern them, stuff that has no bearing on their life whatsoever, but they're willing to let themselves suffer. So it sucks that that's the way it is, man. But I think that you'll be better off for it. And when I play with you, I'll make sure to keep you alive, my friend.
I appreciate that, brother. I think I mean, you said it best, bro. And I think in the famous words of you know, Volkanovski, man, famous UFC fighter, he said adversity is a privilege.
It is.
And I agree with that. And I was thinking the same sentiments, bro. Like it's just sharpening my skills, bro. Like iron sharpens iron. So, the more resistance I'm being met with, I noticed even when me and you played yesterday, right? And we won you dropped like 47 kills with White Fox, and I ended up having like 56 with Cyclops. And
Yeah.
we basically, you know, we put the team on our back. And what I'm saying, the game didn't end the way that we wanted it to end, but just the fact that yeah, we were able to rise to the occasion. And I do feel like yeah, that's helping me out in the long run. Like I said, at first it kind of caught me off guard, but I was like, oh, okay, it makes sense because I'm also guilty of doing the same thing. So I'm glad you mentioned that. I have, what I'm saying, kind of I think me and you were playing together and we spoiled somebody else's stream.
Yeah. Of
Um,
course. Yeah. Yeah.
but granted, that's how we naturally play. We're just naturally competitive anyway. So we're trying to do whatever we can to possibly win the game. So I don't think it was so much, us like, oh, this guy's streaming, let's ruin the stream. But his stream just so happened to get ruined in the process.
Yeah. I mean,
That's just a
yeah. Of course, and we're gonna talk our trash too. I hope we didn't ruin your stream.
facts.
Stuff like that. But I mean, I don't. As far as the people that are like trying their best to beat you, I don't really have anything negative to say about that. I think it's more so when you have your teammates that you expect to, have your back, and again, you expect that everybody on your team is there to get a win. I mean, we talked about this, I think in episode 2, the loser mentality, or maybe it was episode 1. I think it was episode 1.
Hmm.
But you know, it sucks that gaming has gotten to a point, or at least with this game, I can't speak for every game, but it sucks that it's gotten to a point where people are just willing to lose rather than just help out their teammates. It just really sucks. But like I said, when we do play together, my goal is to try to, if I'm healing, to keep you up as much as I can. And we win a lot more than we lose. But it just sucks that you've been having to kind of deal with the nonsense. So hopefully to get a little bit better for you, man.
I think it will. Um, you know, yeah, it's just part of the process, man. It's the nature of the beast in this gaming community specifically. So, you know, we're no stranger, to stepping our game up, man. So if anything, that's just an opportunity to prove the haters wrong. If you come to the channel expecting to see garbage, think again. You know what I mean? So it works out either way.
Oh, no, facts. We got a lot of experience with overcoming the odds. Let's just put it that way. So, so
I
yeah,
agree.
I know you're not new to this. You're true to this, man. I think you're gonna continue to shine, my brother.
Indeed, man.
Um, well, I mean, I guess we can hop right into my little issue that I've run into, man. I think you know, you've heard I've had some crash outs this week. Especially in the last like day or two. but
Allegedly.
allegedly, nothing can be proven. But it's really just led me to become more, I'm looking at things more of in an analytical standpoint rather than be so emotional about things. And I think one of the things that I really came to understand is that we expect a lot from these people in Marvel Rivals as far as our teammates and even the people that we go against. But the problem is, man, I think that there's a lack of fundamentals, especially when it comes to a hero shooter. And so I just wanted to kind of go over a couple of things with you as far as what I think are some things that people miss and, kind of get your opinion on that. But I think just overall, I think there's just a lack of fundamentals when it comes to how people approach the game.
That's fair. Hey man, let's talk about it.
Well, let's do it, Trick Williams. So one of the first things I think that people, honestly, I think you should do this in every game, but especially in a game like this where there's so many abilities, there's so many things that can bounce off walls and go around corners, et cetera, et cetera. Ignoring cover, not using walls as cover, not hugging the walls, not using choke points where they exist, and really leveraging that to your advantage. But we see a lot of teammates standing out in the open. They take a million hits, they take all this damage, and then not only do they expect to not get hit as much or whatever, but they expect for their teammates, their healers, I should say, to be able to compensate for an impossible amount of damage. That's one of the main things I've noticed in this game, man. People just don't have that basic know-how of just using cover. So, what do you think about that?
I for sure think, first of all, I agree, and I think it is a lack of just game sense. Overall, like you said, whether it be they haven't had prior experience playing hero shooters or just multiplayer, games that require like team building or strategies or just basic camaraderie. I think it could be a combination of those things, but I have noticed the same exact thing that you just mentioned, that they just lack, bro, in those areas, and they don't have the know-how to do the basic, fundamentals of a shooter. Like
Right.
whether it be, like you said, whether it be just like, aim is aim. Some people are just gifted and, just have better aim than others. But, whether it be aiming, whether it, like you said, taking cover or just situational awareness as a whole. Like if we're playing convoy or convergence, which involves moving a payload, that we should focus on the objective more, and it's not team deathmatch. Like that's a big one. And like you said, taking out utilities, traps, flyers, whatever is a nuisance on the enemy team. Like, how about we coordinate and focus that and shut that down? Because that's giving us the biggest issues. But you can't get that. So, yeah, I don't even. I wonder what even attracts people to this game. Like at the end of the day, I get it. Besides, like the superhero roster, I understand that. It's very popular. Marvel is, it's viral. It's been viral for a while. But like, what actually brings you to this game? Like, what's your goal? What's your purpose in playing a team based game or team based shooter, and you don't have basic team building, foundation or fundamentals?
Well, I think that actually brings me to my next point, which was um, just coming in and wanting. We talked about this before with being selfish and things like that, but you just wanting to choose your favorite character over whatever the team needs, whatever needs in that, whatever you need in that situation, not flexing, whatever. It's almost like they want to play story mode or they want to play like single player campaign, but it's at the team's expense because maybe they like, let's say, a Squirrel Girl. There's no Squirrel Girl game to play, so well we got to deal with it on here. So I think
Mm.
that's really what it is. They want to play their favorite character, not what's actually needed, and I think that's also a big problem that we see a lot of.
Yeah, I know we had a previous conversation about that one, man, and I think we broke it down into uh basically having fun versus wanting to win.
Yeah,
And I think I think the community is divided on the topic. But two things can be true, right? Like we can play and have fun, and we can also win the game. But in this community, they seem to, to pick a struggle. It's either or. Like we can't have we can't have our cake and eat it too in Marvel Rivals, apparently. But yeah, that's a huge issue. As you see, more people would rather focus on just playing their favorite hero and being selfish, and there's no I in team, but let them tell it. Them having fun overrides, what I'm saying, the overall team objective. So, right, whether that means us getting a win or it's just doing something as simple as working together, that they want out. That they want no parts of it.
Yeah, 100%, man. And I think another one is, it kind of goes with the not understanding cover and stuff, the fundamentals, but not understanding line of sight. Thinking that you can dive, and be all around the corner and on the other side of the map and everything, but still complaining about heals and not understand, or even like the, Iron Mans or any of the Flyers or whatever. You go up super high and super far back, but then you expect for your healers to still be able to hit you. I think that's another thing. Like your healers aren't gonna. We're not. We're not. When we're playing this game, nobody's a miracle worker. Nobody's a magician. You're not gonna be able to, focus on everything on the ground and also focus way up in the sky as well. Like you got to help your healers help you. I'm not saying that you don't deserve to get heals, but you gotta remember line of sight. So it's almost like those warnings on the 18 wheelers mirror. If you can't see my mirror, I can't see you. It's kind of the same thing. Like if you're not in some kind of a line of sight, then I'm not going to be able to heal you. So I think that's another thing that people don't understand.
Yeah, I think divers have a. I think divers got it bad, like Usher Raymond said, and but they right, it's positioning. I think it boils down to positioning, like you said, whether it boils down to flyers or divers. You know, what does your position look like in those situations? Are you making it easy for your healers to have access to you for you to get those heals? Are you going around and getting health packs? Because you're out of the line of sight. So
Exactly.
that's solely your responsibility at that point. I believe that, hey, if you overextend and you go into enemy territory, uncharted waters, hey, I think you need to figure out an exit plan. You need a strategy. So
Yeah.
you can't beggars can't be choosers, man. You can't have it both ways as far as going off to do your own side mission, and then wanting to be catered to or having priority over the rest of your team. Well, if we take priority and just focus on healing you, then we're neglecting the rest of the team, and that's still a bad situation.
Yeah. I mean, I agree 100%. When people get the ping in that chat, they don't realize, that takes your healers' eyes away from what's going on. Now they got to look at the chat, and then it's saying, I need heals. So now at least one of the healers more than likely is going to take attention away from what's going on in front of them. Most likely, your tanks, getting or in a battle of some kind. And now you got to try to find somebody who's, dove too far, or maybe they're flying too high or whatever. And now, by the time they heal you, well, how many people did we just lose in that time when you could have just stayed with the team and gotten yourself in a better position to receive those heals and not put your put your team at risk or put your healers at risk.
That's a fact, Jack. You would think. I mean, common sense isn't so common these days, or as I like to say, they had common sense, but they probably spent it all.
I like that. I never heard that one before, but that's a good one. um,
I,
I think another thing too, man, is when it comes to ults, not leveraging, stacking ults together, and not and mainly panic ulting. How many times have we seen somebody, the last person on the vehicle, and they think they're going to be able to hold point. If you're not capper somebody, you're going to be able to hold point, and they get cooked. So now we're down a man and down a healer, or down an ult, I should say. Usually it's a healer when that happens. Treating that ult more like it's a panic button, you know, and not leveraging it in the best way for the team to really benefit from it.
I think that's probably one of the worst scenarios that people, place themselves in. And it's the good old break glass in case of emergency.
Right.
I'm on the brink of death. Mm, Instead of me just gracefully bowing out, have and accepting a glorious death, as a Spartan would say, they they choose alternative and they really go out on their sword and shield. Like they really leave it all out there, you know. Alt and all, just blow the entire load and have nothing, to regroup with their team and come back and fight with for the next team fight or whatnot. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of people just panic holding and just burning through your that's your ultimate ability for a reason. Let's not just use it willy nilly, just because for selfish purposes, should I say. We would rather you, just salvage the fight and regroup, and so we can have one or more ults and we can combo ult. I'm pretty sure that might be another talking point for you. Um, we may get into that later, but combo ults, save your ult so you can stack them, with your other teammates, and you guys can just, creatively just come up with some type of combination, bro, to win the next team fight.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, that was in there as well. I mean, just like I said, just leveraging it in a way that really just makes the most sense. You know, should I'm gonna die right here anyway. Do I need to pop my ult and waste it and die anyway, or should I just hold it? Maybe I can do the Scarlet ult while we have the Rocket ult down. So I'm harder to kill. I can actually worry about getting it off rather than dying. When I'm midway through, or maybe we have a Captain America that's holding point. Maybe I can come in and leverage another ult with that, or something like that, or wait till my Cloak and Dagger ults, and then now I can get off my Moon Knight ult or something. I won't have to worry about anybody catching me up on this ledge or whatever. I can really get in here and aim where I need to go. It's just stuff like that, man. I mean, you had the Storm and Jeff ult, stuff like that really was,
Mm.
I just think maybe they should have more combo ults for people to really leverage. But I just think a lot of the times people don't think about that, and it really shows. And sometimes we talk about it all the time, especially the higher up that you go in rank. You're punished more and more for those small mistakes. One bad mistake in the first round can cost you the game. And there's people who don't necessarily believe that, but we've seen it play out that way time and time again. So I think really making those smarter choices and really giving yourself the best chance to win, I just think is just overall the best way to play it.
I mean, I'm in agreement, bro. You won't get any any complaints from me, man. They
What? Yeah, go ahead.
oh yeah. Yeah, I was just gonna piggyback on what you spoke about as far as the like the team ups, right? Like they should incentivize new, I guess, and improved team ups. But even if it's not an official team up, that the developers come out with, these people should be creative enough to figure out,
Yeah,
okay, this ultimate pairs well with that ultimate.
I agree.
You know, maybe what I'm saying. Maybe we have something here, and then, but all I said all that to say, all that only works if we got communication.
Well, we always talk about those comms. That's another one. People not leveraging comms and stuff, man. We talk about that all the time, especially if you're stacking and you have people in the party that just aren't talking, or they're not calling out what they see. They'll react to when they get killed, but they won't actually call it out to let people know how to avoid the same fate. So yeah, that's definitely another one. And I think another one too is, and this one you love this one. People thinking that they can be a heal bot. Not using playing healer, but playing it more as a heal bot, not playing it as a strategist, not using your full kit to really help your team succeed and really get picks. Not using that Luna freeze to stop that magic from diving, so your healer or so your tanker DPS can take her out. Things like that. Not using your kit that's really in a way to help the team get more picks and really secure more of an advantage.
Yeah, that's a big one for me, man. One of my favorites. You're absolutely right. Hit the nail on the head. Um, yeah, I think hill is dead, bro. And season
Yeah.
8.5, RIP to the hill bot. I think it's the dawn of a new era. The strategists are here and they're here to stay. And I feel like that's the flow of the game right now. That's where we're headed, in a more like hybrid territory. So yeah, I don't think hill biting. I think, well, I believe it's a thing of the past. When players were first introduced to the game in earlier versions of the game, when there weren't as many characters on the roster, and people weren't as skilled as they are now, since the game has evolved. I
Right.
think you could get away with that, more and more. But nowadays, I feel like you're heavily punished. You're punished especially by dive. You will get exposed as a healer if you strictly just stay in the background and just be a background singer, a NPC, and just think you're gonna heal, and nobody's gonna target you. You're sadly mistaken. People have caught on. That's the thing. It was, it was all fine and it was all fine and dandy until everybody caught on to, hey, and not even just that, but the nerf, the universal nerf that they put across the board for healers, and how their ultimates charge. It's all the healer ults charge slower now, and that also punishes triple healers, because if you're in a triple, especially if you're running three traditional healers in a triple heal comp, and you don't
Okay.
have a healer that's like a pseudo DPS that does damage or can buff, then that means all three of you guys are competing for heals, which means your ult is going, your healing ult is going to charge slower.
Yep.
So I do like I like how they approach that, as a way to kind of dial down the triple heal, insanity that was going on. Because let's be real, it was getting out of control, like out of control, bro. Like, yeah, if a team loses one team fight, they counter swap the triple heals immediately, and that
Yeah.
just changed the whole trajectory of the game. And I feel like that's just a cop out, personally. But I understand they had, it's not cheating if it's in the game per se. Like, okay, you have the option to run triple heals, which we could get into roll queue, which that could be a topic for a later day. you
Oh, it
know,
will be. I'm sure.
but yeah, I just to circle back around to the hill body, man. I don't see it being as productive anymore. I think there's a fall off, for a hill bot. Like, you get diminishing returns for just being a hill bot, and there are a lot of cons associated with it, which I already mentioned, like dive, or even like a poke character can just take a off angle. You know what I'm saying? If they spot you, they can just snipe you from an off angle if you're just sitting back there on Lonely Island. So I think it's just more cons to pros of heel biting, and I feel like more people should understand the role of being a strategist.
Yeah, I agree 100%, man. Again, man, people don't change with the game. You're not able to, like you said, you're not able to just sit back there and heal bot, and people don't understand that, and they'll get mad. The main thing, oh, they're diving us, even when there's nobody diving. That's the go to. And I just think a lot of the times, you can really have, you can have things better in your favor by just helping yourself be in better positions overall. Being closer to the team, not isolating yourself. We can talk about that until we're blue in the face. But I just think, people thinking that you're just able to sit back and heal by and stuff. Like you said, those days are gone, and they just, unfortunately, don't seem to understand that. And then that's when you get the people, complaining about people not peeling and things like that. But and then I think the last thing in this particular conversation I wanted to mention to you was just lack of awareness overall, man. People not playing the objective. People having tunnel vision and hunting somebody off the point. Like somebody, playing Rocket or something and trying to chase a Jeff off the objective when he's ulting. Stuff like
We
that.
know a few.
Yeah, and ignoring flankers. And my biggest one, I think, when it comes to awareness is not taking out, like the group walls, the Namor squids, the Moon Knight onks, all that kind of stuff. The Squirrel Girl ult, all that stuff. I just think just if people were just to focus more, not have so much tunnel vision, be able to have a little bit better peripheral, and really just be aware of everything that's going on. I think that overall, man, you would just see a lot more people having more success overall.
Facts, Facts. It's the small things that either make or break the game.
It
You
is.
know, in the end, like you said, if you don't take care of those said issues, you know, ahead of schedule, it's going to wind up biting you in the ass at the end of the match.
Every
Like
time.
those mistakes, they always show up, bro. It's not a stat, right? It's not an official stat. But if you don't take care of those issues, it will come back to haunt you, and it has 100%. Um,
Time and
you
time
know,
again.
because they're just nothing more than mere distractions. Like it's just it's utility disguised as distraction. And if I can, you know, get you to focus on one hand, right? While right, you focus on my left hand while I'm about to, you know, stab you in the back on my right,
Never
then
see it
you
coming.
know, then we got you. We got you right where we want you. And it's so
Yeah.
simple of a concept to understand, but yet and still, this community struggles the most with the basics.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have we seen it? Maybe a Moon Knight might throw an Unk, we'll kill him, but we don't kill the Unk, and he'll come back. There's a team fight, and then we're just getting beat up by that same Unk that we didn't take out, and then they end up taking the point or moving the vehicle, whatever the case may be, or squad wiping us, and then now we have the disadvantage. So just something as simple as, yeah, we took him out, so we did our job in that regard, but it's simple, something as simple as taking out the Unk along with him. We didn't do it, and then it came back to bite us. And so then we end up losing that. They start they then momentum is a real thing. People don't believe that, but momentum is a real thing. So now they got the
Yeah.
momentum, and now we're just scrambling trying to make up for that one little mistake that could have been avoided and should have been avoided, but it didn't get avoided, and so here we are.
That's a confidence booster for sure.
Yeah,
Because I know if me and you are looking at it, we're attacking it the same way. You know, like we're thinking outside the box. You like, I noticed they didn't take out. You know, that's an extension of my character. That's a part of my kit.
absolutely.
So you didn't think it through thoroughly enough to get rid of, like I said, my little contraption or whatever. So right, I'm just gonna come right back to it. We're just gonna come right back and do the same thing, rinse and repeat until you figure it out. Like just in football, basketball, any type of sport, you keep running the same play until they stop it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and then for me, my biggest pet peeve is in the same breath is is not finishing your meals, bro.
Oh man,
Like leaving food on your plate.
not getting
You
those
know, like
picks. Oh man.
not not getting the picks, bro. If us as a team we do communicate, say all the stars align, the communication's on point, and we're focusing, the issues on the team. We are doing that, right? So we get rid of the Moon Knight Onks, we get rid of the Penny Nest, we get rid of the Namor Squids, et cetera, et cetera. But we now we can target the actual character because right, you got to get past that to even get to the character. So once we finally get to the final boss, and we get them down to one shot, 1 HP or whatever, and then like you said, they take off, and we don't kill them, and now they regroup and rally back with their team, and like you said, pop a ultimate or whatever, come up with another strategy, and just squad wipe us, man. That has to be the biggest annoyance for me personally.
Oh, yeah, I mean, we've seen that one time and time again, bro. And especially like when I'm playing healer and I just see, I see like a Spider Man or somebody. I see him dive in and everybody converges and we get him all the way down, but then nobody has the wherewithal to get that last hit, and he goes away, gets healed up or gets a health pack, and then comes back and hits us with an ult, and then what happens? Everybody's scrambling, we get wiped, whatever the case may be, and it's like, man, if we just would have got that one pick, we would have been okay, but people didn't have the awareness to to finish that off, like you said, leaving meat on the bones. I mean, it happens time and time again, bro. We pay for it every single time. I don't know why people don't understand it at this point.
It's just like what are we doing, and what are we seeing, what are we looking at, what I'm saying, at that point. But are we not seeing that, what I'm saying, this person is on health? Like how how do we ignore, or maybe it's just a choice. I don't think people are ignorant to the fact that this person is low on health. I think they just make a conscious decision to not finish the job. You know, what it may be for personal reasons. Who knows, right? We'll never know what goes on in these people's brains, bro. But yeah, it's crazy to me. It's just simply crazy, bro, that that same situation happens over and over and over. And literally that's the definition of insanity, right? We just keep repeating the same mistakes over and over, but we expect change. And like those are the main people at the end of the game in the chat lobbies, you know, oh, what happened? We almost had it. Oh, we shouldn't have lost that. And it's like, well, I mean, we did allow the same thing to continue to happen all game.
Yeah, I mean, it's only a matter of time. I mean, it's going to come
It's
back to
gonna
bite
cost
you.
you.
But I really think a lot of it is just, I say it all the time. People want you to win for them. I think a lot of the times it comes down to it's somebody else's job to do this. It's not my job. I think
Bystander syndrome.
yeah, exactly. I'm gonna do what I can or do what I feel like I want to do, but I'm gonna allow everybody else to really drive it home and everything. But I expect to win now. I don't want to lose, but I expect you. I want you to win for me. And when we don't, I'll go down the list and tell everybody on my team how they're trash and they're trash and they're trash. Rather than understanding that it was the small things, the simple things that lost us the game and could have been the reason that we won the game. But instead, I didn't take the initiative to do what was needed to win. Instead, I was leaving it up to everybody else, which you can't do that.
Hey, it's a classic case of bystander syndrome. Like you said, we want to be carried, we want to be taxied, call a Uber, call a Lyft, you know, but we don't want to do it. We don't want to do the driving. We don't. I'm not the DD. So
Exactly.
one of y'all got to drive. It's not
Exactly.
my job. Somebody got to do it, just not me.
I want to get home now, but I'm not gonna be the one to step up and have that one less drink so I can be fine to. Yeah, man. I don't know,
Because
man.
why would I take the responsibility when I could just blame you?
Yeah, I mean it's a lot easier just to blame you rather than putting the blame, where it really lies. Which actually brings me to our main event for the week. I think this whole time, I said in the intro that we would be defending DPSs this week, which you know, knowing where we normally stand on this kind of stuff, anybody that's listening probably is thinking like, well, what changed or whatever. So it's not what you think.
Hmm.
We're not defending the DPS in the traditional sense, but I do believe that uh, we have been placing the blame or the bulk of the blame in the wrong hands. So, like I said in the intro, we've been blaming the symptoms rather than the disease itself. And to me, and I think we talked about this before. I believe you may agree, but you can give me your opinion, of course. Um, I think that the blame really lies with these developers. I think that they are the main reason why the game is in such a bad state. I think they could fix things if they really wanted to, but instead they go more DPS heavy. And I said this to you earlier, kind of in passing, but I want to expound upon it now. I think that when it really comes down to it, Mr. Guang Guang and all of his friends are just DPS players that the people that we don't like, they're just those players who know how to make a game, who know how to code and all that stuff to be able to make a game. And because if you look at all the things that they do, everybody's got to be a DPS. Even the characters that shouldn't be a DPS, they got to be a DPS. We can't go 2 seconds without, some kind of buff to a DPS while nerfing all the counters on healer and tank. They're pushing healers toward being more DPS centric. They're pushing a lot of the tanks toward more DPS abilities. I just think, all in all, the blame really lies with the developers and the DPSs and all the negativity that's coming with it, which we'll get into. I think that's just a symptom of the disease, which is the developers. So tell me what you think about that.
Hey, I'm on board. Contrary to popular belief, I think NetEase is fully at fault. I think the company is to blame because this is your product, right? This is the narrative that you push. is that, and the fact is that there are more DPS than tanks and healers on this game.
Yeah.
So I I agree wholeheartedly with everything that you just stated. And I said just rename the game to DPS Rivals, or like you said, just have a DPS only mode where everybody just have to scramble for health packs. And because why do you need a deal? You don't need a healer. You just want to do damage. You
Oh
don't need
yeah.
a tank that makes space. You just want to do damage. So I do believe, like you said, they are all of the same mind. They're all DPS like-minded folks that work at NetEase, and when they brainstormed and put their ideas together and came up with this game, they had DPS in mind, and
DPS on the brain.
it's DPS brain rot, bro. And it's painfully obvious. I don't even think it's debatable at this point. I think, and the community, I think would agree that the most favoritism is catered towards the DPS. And like you said, we had that conversation about having so many overpowered DPS, but then nerfing the counters for the DPSs. It's
Yep.
like we can't like so we're just gonna be DPS top heavy and nothing on the game. You're right. It's supposed to exceed that. Like what happened. It's it's unfortunate what happened to Devil Dinosaur, which was one of the best counters on tank in this entire game. They gutted him. Tank pool was considered S plus tier, not even traditional S tier, according to the Marvel Rivals community and streamers and the pro players. He was unanimously considered the best tank in the game, and not to mention one of the most fun. Because right, I think a lot of people complain about tanking and solo tanking because a lot of us are forced to insta lock a Magneto or a Doctor Strange because once again, as we just stated, the game is DPS centric, and there are a lot of really really strong hit scan and poke characters on this game. And
Oh
you
yeah.
know who counters that, people? Strange or shield tanks.
Yep.
But who wants to play a shield tank every single game because you've incentivized poke? That's all. It's poke slop, as they say.
Yeah, it is.
That's what that's what the young kids are calling it these days.
All
So
right.
it's just a poke bowl, or what I'm saying, like we're playing a game of poker. Like,
I mean,
yeah, man. So, but right on one end, you got the overpowered DPS, and then we have the tanks and the healers that are supposed to counter it. But then the developers go behind our back like a thief in the night. And we wake up the next morning. Next thing we know, there's a hot fix, and they've nerfed what previously countered. You know, the DPS epidemic.
yeah, I mean, you talked about the poke. I mean, you went a little crazy with your idioms there, Unc. You got to you got to slow down a little bit, Gramps. but but yeah, I mean, we were talking about it off air. I mean, it's kind of like the people who want to camp in Battlefield or Call of Duty or Fortnite, stuff like that. I mean, it's kind of the same thing. Like you're like people are. It's getting less and less. Where people are more up close and personal and really getting into the fight. It's more so about avoiding the fight but still doing the same amount of damage and being rewarded for for not engaging as much as other people. And it just really sucks, man. I miss the old days where it was about the game being well rounded and you just kind of had to find your lane. But now it's they're really forcing you to. I mean, it's like they're forcing everybody to be a DPS, bro. Just being honest. I mean, as soon as you come into the game, people insta lock 2 or 3 DPSs, sometimes 4, and instantly the vibe is off. I mean, like you said, why should I always have to play shield tank, or why do I always have to play healer? Maybe I want to play DPS this game, but in order for me to play DPS this game, somebody's got to switch, and we know that's not gonna
Mm-hmm.
happen. So then it's like, well, you know what? Forget it. I'm just not even gonna heal for y'all. So then you end up with a whole DPS team, and it's just a bad spot. You see people complaining all the time. On the Reddit and YouTube videos and stuff like that, and it seems like the only people that they really listen to is the DPS players when they complain, but they don't really do anything for the tanks or for the healers. I mean, one of the biggest examples you just kind of mentioned it was the old Reptar himself. Devil Dinosaur. The pro players were complaining about him and tank pool because they were good counters for DPS. And then what did they do? Instead of balancing it out for both of them, they just nerfed the tank pool and the dinosaur. So now the DPSs, and of course they brought Cyclops out, and so now the DPSs get even stronger. And so instead of making a statement where we're not gonna just worry about our DPSs, that community, we want everybody to have fun. No, we're just gonna take away the counters to the DPS so that the DPS can have more fun.
Man, I think NetEase is making a big mistake by I think they're catering to basically just one specific group of people, and that group of people being the pro player scene. I think, like you said, they're forcing us to run meta characters, and unfortunately, a lot of the meta characters are DPS, and even
Yeah.
more so, they're poke and hit scan. Anybody that can do like burst damage or range damage for a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like like a lot. It packs a punch.
Right.
They're basically forcing your hand to run those characters. And yeah, I don't want to be a meta slave. I don't think it's fun to always play meta. And who's to say what's meta, right? I think it's objective on one hand. I think it can be subjective on in another universe, because you can basically make a character meta if you're really really good and you have high enough skills. I think you can make any character meta. But there's a unanimous I guess decision in the community of what's meta and what's not. And I think, and those are the people that have the loudest voices in the community. And unfortunately, most of them are DPS players.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. We all, our tagline here is no meta, just mayhem. We definitely believe that, just because they say a character's meta doesn't mean they are, and just because they say they're not doesn't mean they're not. We believe that you can just get good enough with a character to make anybody a counter. You can make anybody a meta, and that's kind of where that came from for us. So I'm with you 100% there. I think I just think this season 8 was really, considering the state of the game and where things are and the community and all that stuff, I really think that season 8 was just an opportunity for the developers really to make a statement. This could have been a double tank season. They really could have made the statement that we're not going to just cater all the DPS. We don't have to have a DPS every season. But, they obviously didn't go that route. I think this was just really a chance. We can go one season without getting, we can go a lot of seasons without getting a new DPS. But I think, it shows you what they really want in the game and how they want the game to go. Because like I said, you can't tell me that they don't hear the noise, they don't see the adversity and things like that. And they really had a chance, man. You were just telling me off air that Scott Summers and Captain America are really like around the same size, but for the game, they kind of beefed up Captain America a little bit and made him a tank. Why can't you do the same thing for Cyclops? I mean, you know this stuff better than me, but I know you were telling me before that Cyclops is like the leader of the X-Men. I mean, the leader of the X-Men sounds like a guy that's on the front lines. Sounds more like a tank to me. I mean, but maybe I'm wrong, but that sounds more like a tank to me. So I don't. This was a season that they really could have. This was a real flashpoint. They could have really made a real pivot here and make a real statement, and they chose to go the other way. So, and here we are.
Yeah, bro, they definitely chose violence this season. Um, they had the perfect opportunity and just squandered it. Absolutely fumbled it. Like you said, we've never had a double tank season, but we've had a double DPS season. I don't even. We may have not even had a dual healer season. We've had anything but right. We definitely had as many all the DPSs that we can handle, but
Yeah.
yeah, just a lack of love for our healers and tanks. But I think, like you said, that was a perfect opportunity. We could have won a double healer season. We could have won a double tank season. Anything other than DPS. But when given the free will, they made a choice, and yes, we're stuck with another broken DPS, which like we were talking about, he has a similar build. Cyclops has a similar build to Captain America, especially in the movies. Chris Evans. I know everybody's watched it. The Avengers. That guy. He's not. Is he like super swole and buff and bulky? No, he doesn't look like a tank. You know, he doesn't look like a tank any more than Cyclops does, and they're both leaders.
Yeah,
Steve Rogers, aka Captain America, is a leader. He's on the front line. Makes sense. He's a tank. Cyclops is the leader of the X-Men, of Charles Xavier's squad. He easily fits the description, the role of a tank. Hell, even Magneto. We have Magneto on the game for another reference. Guess what? They made him a little bit buff. And guess what? He's the leader of the villains, and he's a tank.
yeah,
So
it's true.
we have from Emma Frost, right? She was the leader of the original X-Men, like the origins
Oh, I didn't know that.
of yeah, she was like the first like iteration of the leader of the X-Men. Um and of course she's an Omega. We did some research yesterday, come to find out she's an Omega class mutant. She has like a secondary transformation or mutation, excuse me, that she can do by turning her skin in the diamond form, on top of being just ridiculously overpowered telepath. But they gave her extra hips, thighs, and ass, and just what I'm saying, just just made her look like an OnlyFans model for the video game. Also, what I'm saying, for all the gooners out there, I'm sure they're enjoying that. But yeah, she's not like in the original comics, in the movie that she was in. I think she was an X-Men First Class, and she was an X-Men Origins Wolverine movie. She was not built like that, bro. Like she's nice and petite, and just she's not built like a tank, in other words. But for this game, right, they added some extra weight, in questionable places.
The Goon Squad.
you know, I mean, I know me and you didn't ask for that.
No,
We would have just been satisfied with just give us the base model, bro. Just give us lore accuracy. At the end of the day, that's what we're asking you.
I
That's
didn't
all
even
we're
know
asking
who
for.
Frost was,
For
man.
what I'm saying? In a perfect world, we just want the game to be balanced.
Yeah,
Whether that be lore, what I'm saying, like wherever they want to take it, however they want to approach it. We just want fair game balancing, and I think that's the message that we're promoting to the community. And yeah, that's my thoughts on that one.
yeah. I mean, like I said, I didn't even know who she was. I hadn't heard of her until the game. Squirrel Girl. I mean, it's a lot of them that I haven't. A lot of characters I didn't know about personally. I'm not into the comics and stuff, but I do agree. I wish they would focus more on making things lore accurate. Making a balanced game overall. But again, I mean, like we said, it's just these Spider-Man mains, people like that. If they could make a game, this would be what it is. So it's not really like it's not really much of a surprise that it's this way. I just think that for me, I just think it was really just important for us to really shine a light on exactly where the blame should go and where everything, where like the origins of some of our problems with the game, and in all in all. And I just think again, until the developers want to make that change and really want to make that statement, I think it's going to continue. I mean, you were just telling me you've seen different videos and people like really ranting about the state of the game. I really just think you're going to get more episodes like this. You're going to get more people ranting, more people complaining, until the developers really have enough and really say, okay, we're going to go back to the foundation, and we're really going to make a statement here to make all of our players happy, rather than just worrying about just the DPS community. And until that happens, it's going to continue to get worse, brother.
Man, until next time, right? Next time, gadget, bro. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Hurry up and wait approach. But I mean, that's just part of our wish list. What we would like to see in the game as far as changes or adjustments. It's not asking a lot, Netties. This is basically another love letter to the company. If you guys just so happen to run across or bump into our content, yeah, please just take it into consideration. You know, just take it with a grain of salt. But we speak on behalf of a lot of people in the community. You know, like we do the research as well. We do our homework, and we're just echoing the same sentiments that we're seeing from a lot of different communities, man. And yeah, I just I just hope they do better in the future because I tell you what, they're on the clock, bro. They're on the chopping block because GTA is around the corner,
Ooh,
and me and you
boy.
both know what that means.
Yeah, that's gonna be a real test, man. I think it's gonna shake up a lot of things, man. And I think any game that has issues in their communities and stuff, people are kind of looking for an alternative anyway. That's gonna really throw a wrench into a lot of plans here. So they definitely have some work to do. They better get on it, now because like you said, it's coming out in a few months. If everything goes according to plan, and I think at that point, man, it's gonna be a real big test for them, bro. I really do.
Yeah, Rockstar is a juggernaut. That's a juggernaut franchise, man. I don't think NetEase really wants that smoke. At the end of the day,
They're gonna do poke
they
damage.
might want to. Hey, they might want to get they might want to get ahead of the curve, man, or and not be behind the eight ball when GTA 6 rolls around, bro. Because yeah, that's gonna spell the end for a lot of competition. That's what you don't want to be in competition with that company, man, and you haven't worked out the kinks with your own product.
No, no, agreed, 100%. You don't want to go into it. You don't want to limp into it. Having these kind of problems. I definitely think it's a good time for them to really focus on, fixing that and really making sure that they have things, kind of sewed up a little bit more than they are, so they don't have to worry about that kind of, because I mean, there's going to be people who are going to be loyal to Marvel anyway, just because, and there's going to be people who won't be. There's not really much you can do about that, but I do think that you can put the odds a little bit more in your favor, by doing, just making certain adjustments, in order to, get a little bit more favorable odds going forward.
I think I think what you said is true. I think that they might wind up losing they might wind up losing their casual fan base.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The hardcore gamers, I could see them sticking around for the long run and just riding this thing out with Marvel Rivals to the end. But I think for the casuals, that's just looking for just a fun experience, just mindless fun or just an alternative solution. Yeah, I think they may their attention may wander elsewhere, man, in the future if these issues and these problems don't get resolved pretty soon here.
Yeah, I agree 100%, man. I guess we'll just have to, continue to follow things and see how it goes. Maybe we'll get that surprise announcement that we'll get a tank free or a DPS free season. I wouldn't hold my breath, but maybe it'll come, man. You never know.
Yeah, I think Rivals is they're in the same situation that Overwatch was, and I'm not an Overwatch player, but I do know close friends of mine that were a part of that community, and they said that the same thing that happened to Overwatch is the same experience right now with Rivals, and unironically enough, a lot of those players from Overwatch converted over to Marvel Rivals, which probably is contributing to the overall toxic environment that we're experiencing. But either way, um, it's not looking good, man, for NetEase, bro, at this rate.
Yeah, I agree, bro. We'll just have to see if they make the necessary corrections or if they'll just continue to let things devolve into, a worse and worse state and then, just continue to play their luck.
Yeah, man. Just hope they do the right thing like Spike Lee, brother.
I agree. Um, well, that'll wrap up another trip through the Multiverse Locker Room. This week we survived a Cyclops shadow buff. We endured more locker room meltdowns and we committed the ultimate Marvel Rivals crime. We suggested that maybe, just maybe, the DPS players aren't responsible for every bad thing that's happened since the dawn of gaming. So whether you agree with us, completely disagree, or if you're currently typing a strongly worded comment while listening to this outro, we want to hear from you, of course. Are the developers steering the ship in the wrong direction? Are the DPS players getting blamed for problems they didn't create? Or are me and Kosa just completely out of our minds? Let us know. Be sure to follow the show, continue to support the show, leave us a review, and share your podcast with that one friend who's always saying it's not my fault after they just went 3-12. And remember, Mr. Guang Guang, you can nerf the heroes, you can buff the heroes, you can rewrite the patch notes, but if your foundation is cracked, no amount of balance changes is going to fix the building. He's Kosa, I'm Goat Dog. We'll catch you next week in the Multiverse Locker Room. Bye-bye, everybody.
Tune in next week. We out.
We out.